You're about to hear from brothers Eric and Jack as they exchange ideas and learn from the most calculated real estate entrepreneurs in the business today. This is Tangible Assets, the new rules of real estate. Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jack Eichhoff, and I'm here with my brother,
Eric Eichhoff.
Yeah, and so this would be episode 1 of our new podcast called Tangible Assets, the new rules of real estate.
We're here to share success stories from local Minnesota investors who are sharing kind of some of the stuff you just can't find online. So the success stories from people out there living this every single day.
Yeah, so no, we're super pumped. This is an idea we've been kind of talking about for a little while. We're both in the real estate industry. Eric is killing it being a broker, and we're recording out of his office here in WeWork.
Yeah.
I kind of share a little more of the property management side of the experience coin. So, we're excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. So I want to start out with a story that happened to me recently. It was about a year and a half ago. And this was on a building that we had purchased. One of the first challenges that we experienced was we had a drug dealer we had to kick out. So we didn't exactly know where in the building, but we were hearing complaints that it was coming from the third floor. And we knew that it was coming from one of these apartments because we saw people were starting to tell us that people were coming into the building, they were staying for 5 minutes, and then they were leaving and kind of coming at all hours of the day and night. And that it really smelled like marijuana coming from the third floor.
Okay, wait. Who's the whistleblower? Who told?
We had complaints from a few people on that floor, but there was a couple of people on the second floor. So it was just like probably 5 or 6 people over like a 2-month time span. So
that's a lot of notices for something like that going on. Okay. How did you fix it?
Yeah, so this was our first apartment building, and so we're pretty excited, but also like, holy cow, we're dealing with the real stuff now after dealing with a bunch of duplexes for a few years. So luckily for us, we had a on-site property manager, and so we
caretaker,
caretaker, not property manager, Monica, and so we asked Monica to be our eyes and ears, and so we said, hey, we think it's coming from this unit. Can you go investigate? And, she basically said, no, it's not unit 302. And we're like, we're pretty sure it is. And over the next couple of weeks, we really didn't make any ground. And so we eventually figured out that Monica was actually buying from this unit. So
of course, Monica didn't want to give up who it is.
Yeah. So this person was Monica's dealer, and
you got to make sure you're working with someone you trust.
Yeah. That was like the first lesson. And
that's funny.
Gosh, man, it was too bad because we had to get that person out, and then we also had to get our all-star caretaker out as well right away. So that was my first foray into larger apartment buildings. Actually.
Yeah. So that building's out in River Falls. Obviously, we live in Minneapolis. How were you confident in buying a place so far away? I mean, it's only 45 minutes, but totally different market.
Yeah, great question. So this was one we 1031. So I went in with a partner. As many times in real estate, it's not easy just to take down large building yourself. You usually do a syndicate where you invest with some people, or you get a couple partners. And so we had some 1031 funds, my wife and I. This partner had some 1031 funds as well. And really, it was kind of the only decent deal. We were looking at it on a price per door basis. So sometimes people talk about cap rates. Sometimes they talk about price per door. This one was like $55,000 a door, which seemed pretty cheap at the time compared to the stuff in the city. And so we went for it. Yeah, we went from a duplex to a triplex to a 24 unit. So it was kind of
that's quite the leap.
Yeah, it was a big jump.
I honestly haven't heard many stories of people doing 1031s together like that, joining forces. Because, I mean, you have 6 months to make that next purchase. I guess that's kind of cool how you paired up with, it was Conrad, right?
Yeah. Yep. Conrad Ellisted, really good guy, local loan officer, but is a guy that I look up to and probably will be on a future episode. He's a younger guy and has over 100 doors already, so has built a really impressive portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Jack, you come from the property management world. You've been so tell me a little bit about that. Tell us about what you're building over there.
Yeah, definitely. So, I manage small to medium-sized multifamily units. Really just duplexes up to my recent work, on your River Falls building, which has been interesting. Working with a on-site caretaker and then handling all the other aspects of the property management side. But it's been good, man. You learn a lot talking with tenants, learning how to, lease units, how to advertise to different markets, whether U of M properties or, your classic families living in the units. Because, in two different neighborhoods, I got people blowing me up for September 1st, 2020 move-in at one spot. Well, I can't get, any calls on one of my other places right now I'm trying to rent in Northeast, a 4-bed, 2-bath unit, which is similar. It's a 5-bed, 2-bath versus a 4-bed, 2-bath, two different neighborhoods. Totally different market. So,
probably pretty close in proximity too.
Yeah, not too far, to be honest. But all the students want to live in Como. That's just kind of where it is. That's been good.
So what does it take to be successful in property management in Minnesota? Whether you're managing a new investor, managing your own building, or if you want to become a property manager and manage other people's, what do you think is the challenges you face as a manager in Minnesota?
There's a assortment of challenges, but I think one of the best, quick tips I would say, and best things, to live by is if there's any maintenance problems in your units, take care of that stuff right away. You got to face problems head on, and answer your phone and save your tenant's contacts info on your phone so you know when they're calling. Because, it depends, what kind of business you are, but you might get a bunch of calls in the day and not able to get back to everybody. I think that's the reality for a lot of people in the real estate industry. But if you handle these maintenance issues head on right away, take care of them ASAP, the people who pay you will love you, the renters.
Yeah.
And you will, build a lot of trust with them, which is extremely important. I've found this out the hard way in some cases, not addressing things directly head on, and then, down the road, you'll face consequences. Big or small.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many parts of the real estate business where it's pick up your phone and wonderful things happen. If you are a good communicator, it's really not that complicated of a business. Yeah. So Jack, you own a portfolio of properties as well, and you own a couple now, I think, out of state, right, in Cleveland.
Yeah. I got a partner, but we have 2 places in Cleveland. The Corman Ave property, which is a duplex, and then also has a little single-family home on there. And then the other one on Gay Avenue, which is just a duplex. So,
okay.
Yeah, bought both of those this year. Really would not have even considered looking into markets outside of Minneapolis because I wasn't comfortable with them. But after making a trip with you and a couple other people, and meeting the realtor down there and meeting the contractors and the property manager, it really felt a lot more tangible, let's say.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. So what's different? Why, you're also a local Minnesota investor, but what's different about investing out in Cleveland versus investing in Minnesota? And what other advice would you have for someone that's looking at potentially investing out of state?
Yeah, I think, one thing I looked up, and my biggest concern was vacancy. So last time I checked, it was like 20% vacancy in Cleveland, which is very high compared to our market. So that's one thing you just got to adjust for and know. And that kind of helps you realize that, okay, that's, why it looks like these properties are selling at a discount.
I think we bought 2% in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, like very low, maybe even in the ones. I haven't looked at that, but so we bought both the properties for under $40,000 each. So total, less than $80K. A couple thousand renovations on each. We knew that, and our goal really, knowing that there's high vacancy, is just make the house that we're buying just a little bit nicer than all the ones right around it. Because you got to be able to attract that renter, and you can't just rent crap. And that's something, you just, I guess, got to prepare for.
So instead of buying a Tesla, you went and bought 2 houses in Cleveland.
That's right. Yeah. No, trying to stay in this for the long term, It's a long-term game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Jack, you flipped a couple homes in Minneapolis too, or you've...
Successfully won.
Okay.
No, I'm holding that St. Anthony duplex. So yeah, I bought my first deal ever was a duplex at the U of M. Bought that in 2015. That was a foreclosure back when there was foreclosures to buy.
Yep.
I know that a lot's changed since then. And yeah, put a bunch of money into it, fixed it up, started renting my lower unit for $1,200 and the upper unit for $2,000, and then aggressively pushed rents from there to $1,650 and then $2,500 on the top unit, and sold it pretty much right when I got rents up there, which took 4 years, incrementally increasing and figuring out the good time to market to tenants. And one of the problems is one of the reasons I sold it is I had a property that wasn't leased in June, and it was a U of M property.
Yeah.
And 3 months away, students are way past looking for housing. So I was having a seriously hard time renewing at the same rates for that 5-bed unit. And that put a little pressure on me to kind of sell, because I knew I was going to go vacant for a couple months at least, unless I seriously dropped rent. But
yeah. But that's incredible. You're getting over $4,000 in rent per month. And what was the price when you bought that?
$211.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And how much did you put into it? About
$117.
Okay, so
And
you're
then,
all in price. You're well under the 1% rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you took that money, you divested, you bought some Cleveland properties. Is that right?
Cleveland property, and then just moved into a condo myself.
Okay, cool.
But I guess I skipped a step. Went into St. Anthony and lived there with some college roommates for like 3 years.
Okay, and that's a duplex up in St. Anthony.
Yeah, that was a duplex in St. Anthony. So I lived in one half and then had 3 roommates. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath unit on each side. And then, yeah, that was a sweet place though. Big backyard.
Yeah.
Pretty close to the city.
So I always ask people that go through and do a major renovation, especially one of their first ones, dropping over $100,000 into that. One, how did you do that? And 2, if you were to do that over again, do you think there's ways that you could have saved some money knowing what you know now if you were to go through that whole drill again?
If I were to go through the whole... Okay, well, first, with my St. Anthony place, we did a big renovation in the basement. But when we originated our loan at purchase, they lent us 80% of the after repaired value. So that was an awesome deal. But the U of M duplex obviously took more cash out front because they didn't offer that. But we refied out a year later. But in St. Anthony, they saw, hey, we're looking at it, bought it for about $330. They say, yeah, we think it'll be worth $380 afterward. The bank said that, and then they lent 80% on $380. So that made it a lot easier on the cash out to do those renovations.
How about going through the construction process? If you were to let's go back to your first duplex where you said you put about 117 into it, right? The one on U of M. Yeah. What would you have done differently?
It turned out the contractor that we used on that was, we just used him once, never worked with them again in the future. So that wasn't the greatest situation on how all that shook out. But, it's hard to say what I would have done different because it worked out. And, after selling it this year, I did well. I was happy with everything. It was fairly easy to manage the whole time. No big systems on the building went out. We put new boilers in right away, and did some other critical kind of mechanical things like that. And so I'm not feeling like I bumped my head into the wall too many times on that one.
Yeah.
I think, we definitely overspent on the renovation, and with the network of contractors and just handy guys that we know now, we could get it done a lot cheaper, of course. But not everybody has access to that, and you got to find a contractor you know and trust. Yeah.
So what was the final sale price on that one?
It was I listed for $440, and then they came down 2% seller paid closing costs.
Got it.
What does that net out to? $8,800 off that. So about, yeah, 432,000 about.
Got it. So doing some math on it, bought it for 212, put about 117 into it. So yeah, you walked away with the good chunk of money. How did you market that? What did you do to be able to increase the value? How did you sell it to the buyer?
First just driving rents aggressively, posting it. U of M market's nice because you can post it so early. Search volume for U of M rentals peaks in November for the following September, which is wild. I mean, it shows you they're looking, 10 months in advance at least, give or take. And then I am a numbers person and information driven. So I put as much info as possible in that listing as I could, like all the financial information, tried to really detail out, my expenses that anyone could see. So you could see trash, water expenses, really the bottom line net income. Cause I knew it was strong for the property, like financially on paper, it was a, excellent deal for the buyer. But the value of the home and other aspects, comparables can, kind of pull the value in a different direction. But yeah, I just made sure that I proposed totally honest and straightforward, easy to understand financials for the building so that anyone looking at it on the MLS could see like, hey, this is a really sweet deal. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And got multiple offers. Yeah.
I think that's so important. And especially to any of the listeners that are looking at selling some of their properties, what we find often are the buyers. It's such a consumer driven world these days where, if you're thinking about the process of how someone is going to buy a home, you think about it from the point of view of the buyer, right? Agents less and less are sending buyers properties, especially investment properties, running the numbers for them and asking what they think. It's more buyers are saying, hey, I found this interesting property on Zillow. I found this somewhere online. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, can you go set up a showing and get me through this place? And so I think what you're saying is so important, and there's so many investors that miss this. When they go to post their property, list it for sale, you really need to make sure that all the information is out there in front of the buyers. There's not just information that only the agents can see. And really spell it out, like walk people through so they don't have to spend a whole lot of time trying to make estimates. Because what I find is when people are going to make assumptions, they're going to probably guess on the high side, like for expenses. And they're probably going to undershoot rents. And, I bet the property would have.
And some people even have a theory of mind of, hey, let's just, put out enough teaser content and then get people in for the showings realistically. Mm-hmm. And I'm totally on the other camp, I guess, of provide as much information as possible to people because, that first online showing is one that is extremely important. And so whether that's with, photos, financial information, I made floor plans of the units. I published those with the listing. I had a 3D tour, so someone could a Matterport 3D tour, so someone could, virtually tour the place without ever being there. And I know you've had success with that, selling some of your listings to people. I heard that story of the guy out in California. He's like, wants you to walk there and buy it after seeing it. But
the 3D tours, right? Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, we've sold a couple properties without the buyer seeing the whole thing.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, there's one that we sold where again we just kind of sold it as a business. Myself and another guy, we bought it. We increased the rents over a year, and then we put it back on the market and sold it for about $100,000 more than we bought it. And keep in mind, when we bought it, we had bought it on the open market. It was listed for about 30 days. And there was ourself and another offer that went in. So we didn't get a screaming deal. We actually paid full asking price after it had been on the open MLS for 30 days. And we were able to increase the price about $100,000 in just a year. And the market definitely didn't go up that much. But what we did do was we increased the price. So we made it look like a better business investment. And then we just came through with very transparent expenses. So we just outlined every single month for the past year what everything was. So someone could crunch numbers with very accurate numbers rather than putting in, some padding in their numbers.
And that's just going to drop the buyer's barrier to take action is if you give them everything that you know, because
Yeah, every time they have, they need to go get information and they don't have it, it just stalls the deal and slows things down. And they start really excited, and then they just start losing that excitement. And if it's like a week later and they're still asking for stuff, then they start moving on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, now, I mean, I've heard a little bit about kind of my story, some of what I'm up to. I know you've been in the business longer than I have. You're 6 years older than me. I think I was kind of inspired to get involved in real estate and in this industry as a whole after seeing, what our mom, Christy, went through, being a broker up in North Dakota. We're from Grand Forks. And after seeing what you've done as well. So yeah, tell us some of the, I guess, your background and how you got into real estate. I know your first couple of deals up in Grand Forks and stuff. But
yeah, I don't like to share my story as much because
why?
Mine is much less calculated than yours, right? Your first deal was kind of a grand slam and pretty calculated, and you did really well in it. My first deal was more, and I've shared this a couple times with people, but I was running a painting business. I had a big chunk of cash left over after running a College Pro Painters franchise. Shout out to all the other College Pro people out there.
That's right.
Sam Foltz, Darren Grover, Alex Kaloff, some of those buddies. And I, the first thing I did when I had that chunk of cash was I went out and I bought a big screen TV. And I'm like, I never really believed, people always said.
Wait, are you serious?
That's a true
you bought
story.
A big screen TV?
Yeah, 47-inch flat screen, 1080p.
47.
It was.
What year is
cool.
this? What year is this?
This was 2009. So I had this in like the dorm room. I was the coolest kid. Nobody had a TV like me. Anyways, so I just knew I'm like, I'm gonna spend the entire thing. It was a little over, I think I had like 25 grand, big chunk of cash for a kid in college, way too much. And, I was afraid of myself, and I had, like I said, I had read books
fear to have.
Or read things where people said, you're going to spend what you have. And I just never really thought that until I did that. And so I needed to figure out a place, where can I put my money where I can't touch it? And, at the time
you put it into tangible assets.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Yes. I bought a house. So I bought a $100,000 house. I put 20% down. And thanks to my mother's guidance, she's like, hey, Eric, I've seen some wealthy people invest in real estate. I don't really know exactly how it works, but you just want to make sure that your rent is more than the mortgage. And I'm like, that's a great formula. As long as it's cash flowing, then I'm good. And so I had her calculate what my mortgage would be, total expenses. I looked at what I thought the rents would be, and that was more. And so that was my buy button. And I'm like, awesome. All right, buy.
Sweet.
Yep. That was it. I didn't care what my cash on cash return is. Wasn't thinking anything like that. I was 19. So yeah, that was a little over 10 years ago. The next year I went out, bought another house, did the exact same thing, same formula. And then the next year after that, I went out and I bought a duplex. And that was more just because I was looking around. This was before Bigger Pockets, before any of those blogs that was talking about this. I actually was trying to find a place to rent. And I thought rent was just too expensive. And I'm like, I don't really want to throw my money away renting. I'd always lived very cheap in college and had roommates like in the same room. Mm-hmm. Never even had my own private space. And so I'm like, I just
Three guys in one room. Yeah. That one place in Old Floco. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Senior year. Yeah. It's not how you're supposed to live your
senior year too. Jeez. You had an alley over there.
Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Chad and Lau. Anyways, and so I just, out of being cheap, I decided, what if I just bought a duplex, rented out half, and lived in the other half, and had that pay the mortgage? So that was property number 3, and that's when I finally started realizing, gosh, maybe I could do something with this, and that's when real estate started.
Wow. And now where are you at?
About 85 doors, so across like 28 different buildings.
Dude, you did an event like how many months ago? I thought it was 72 at that time.
Nah,
you're making moves in Cleveland, I hear too.
That was it. Yeah. We're both out there buying in Cleveland. Yeah, I bought 16 properties in Cleveland this past year with another guy, Larry White, And so we're 50-50 owners of those, and so we're scaling up there, but we're still buying in Minnesota as well, and still very much investing in the state.
Yeah. I know. So buying a $40,000 house in Cleveland, like you can't get a mortgage on that, so you got to buy them in cash to get these places. Have you had any luck talking to people who can finance you out of those?
Yeah, we're working through refinance right now with Tim Swarchek from iLoan. He's
a local guy. Yeah,
he's a local guy. Yep. So he's the one that's facilitating that. But yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, actually. When you buy these low price homes, there's not a lot of banks that want to help you out. The local banks in Cleveland, they want to see an owner living in Cleveland. They don't want to invest to fly by the night out of state people. The big national banks like the U.S. Bank, the Wells Fargo, that have a presence out there, they want to see that you've owned these properties for over a year before they'll give financing. The Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the loans that most people are familiar with and used to, the 30-year fixed, they have loan limits. And so, the minimum loan limits are $50,000. And so, price has to be around like 75. And so really that just throws you in the category of some hard money, some private money, which has interest rates of north of 12%, so very expensive, or kind of smaller local community banks that you already have a relationship with that are willing to kind of take a risk on you.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going with. It's one of those things I just never thought we'd have a problem with, but it has been a little bit of a challenge, but also opens up some pretty interesting opportunities. Because if you think about it, if we're having that problem, probably a lot of other people are as well. Yeah.
Wow. So, you have this portfolio of properties, like 16 right now. You're going to put a blanket loan over all of them. What happens if you sell one?
Yeah. So
is it due on sale, the whole mortgage, or?
That's a really good question. Most people wouldn't think about that, but actually they will let you kind of get an appraisal of that property, and then they'll just readjust the loan. So you can sell off a couple of them, and
cool.
they'll readjust the loan.
As long as you're under a certain loan to value.
Yep.
And what is that, do you think?
Yep. They're gonna be 75% loan to value.
Nice.
So yeah.
Not bad. Good deal.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, hey, man, this is I guess, good kind of first cut at tangible assets. I'm excited to have future guests on. I guess any kind of closing remarks as you want to say to wrap up, episode 1. What can our viewers, listeners expect to hear in the future? And it's not just going to be you and me. So
yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of what we have to offer is some of the, you work with a lot of owners that own buildings, and you're very into investing yourself in property management. Myself, I work with a lot of buyers and sellers of smaller multifamily. So I think we can identify some of the trends that we see coming in, especially in the Midwest, before they become kind of well known. And, sharing that. I think a lot of what we do, even though we talked a little bit about fixing a place up to sell, we do a lot of buy and hold, yourself and I, and we work with a lot of buy and hold investors. So really, how that game works, how to get started, but also how to scale. And we're going to be bringing some pretty interesting speakers, some pretty humble guys and gals that, have built pretty large portfolios onto this podcast to share some of those behind the secret, behind the scenes tips and tricks. I also think, I will just kind of throw this out there. I've met a lot of people that have built very large portfolios, and I meet a lot of people that want to build a large portfolio and buy an apartment building. Even though buy and hold is definitely the mindset, one little tidbit is I've never seen anyone save up enough money for a down payment for a large building. And what I mean by that is you don't just sit there and just hopefully one day have enough to go out and buy a
just wait till I have $200K in my bank and then go buy that apartment building.
Yeah.
Yes.
People, exactly. Yeah. People buy those by starting small. Yeah. Everyone starts with a duplex. Everyone. Or, like maybe a rental house or a condo, but usually a duplex. Every big investor. And it's through trading. So you own it for a few years, you fix it up, you sell it. And you trade your way, and you do 1031s to eventually get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm super pumped to be talking to more of these people in the future. It's going to be great. So,
Cool.
all right. Well, let's
All right.
wrap. That's episode 1, Tangible Assets, the new rules of real estate.